Hello, community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, C-Suite Trusted Advisor, Elite Team Strategist, and Board Director, preparing businesses to navigate culture, complexity, and change. April is National Stress Awareness Month, a time dedicated to recognizing and addressing the impact of stress on our daily lives. This focus on awareness aligns with a recent experience I had just a few weeks ago. I've been leading conversations about leadership for decades, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened when I was co-facilitating a webinar. My co-facilitator, a Latina with a PhD, and I, a Black woman with a PhD, were conducting a session on delivering constructive feedback when suddenly the session was hijacked. Someone hacked into the Zoom call and scrawled racist, derogatory comments across our slides, attacking our identities, our presence, and our very right to lead that conversation. In that moment, we had a choice: allow hate to derail us or press forward. We chose to press forward, modeling the very principles of constructive engagement we were there to teach. But when the session ended and a colleague called to check in with me, I broke down in tears. Take a moment and ask yourself, what would you have done? In the face of hostility, would you have pressed forward? Would your team have been ready to have your back and continue pressing forward with you? Because moments like this are no longer rare. They are part of the landscape we must navigate as leaders. We're living in a time of emboldened hostility, a boldness I have never before experienced so directly. Yet when I think about my parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, I recognize that the opportunities I have today, the education, the expertise, and the platform are privileges built on their sacrifices. And while it is a small price to pay in comparison, it is still a price no one should have to pay in 2025. So how do we as leaders navigate a world where inclusion itself has become a flashpoint? How do we remain committed to progress when the very language of DEI is being stripped away in corporate and public discourse? This is where I see the value of peer innovation. Leo Batari's framework for peer-driven leadership provides a powerful model for engaging CEOs in these complex conversations. His book outlines how the collective wisdom of a trusted peer group can help leaders navigate change, build psychological safety, and create resilient organizations. And this is where I want to connect Leo's principles to Jim Roberts' recent article entitled DEI is Dead, Long Live DEI. Jim's piece reflects a growing corporate sentiment. DEI as a term has become too politically charged, but the fundamental business need for diversity, inclusion, and belonging remains. Forward-thinking CEOs must grapple with this reality, not by retreating, but by rethinking. That's why in this month's series of Real Conversations from the C-Suite, I want to explore 3 key ideas. First, the power of peer innovation in the C-Suite, how the principles in Leo's book foster meaningful peer dialogue among executives, and why that matters in today's climate. Second, peer innovation as a framework for tackling DEI challenges. How CEOs can use peer-driven learning to critically assess the business case for inclusion, rather than framing DEI as an obligation or a political stance. And third, Jim's article as a case study in CEO decision-making. How leaders can approach DEI, by whatever name it takes, in a way that aligns with their strategic objectives. This series won't feature just another perspective about DEI. It's a series of real conversations from the C-Suite about leadership, about how to make decisions in an era where taking a stand is unavoidable. If you're in the C-Suite, you don't have the luxury of avoiding this conversation. Your employees, customers, and stakeholders are already having it, with or without you. The question isn't whether you should engage, but how you will lead. That's why every Thursday in April, I'm inviting you to a space where we move beyond corporate talking points and into real conversations from the C-Suite. Conversations that challenge, refine, and prepare you to lead with clarity, confidence, and impact. But listening is just the first step. Having a discussion about diversity, by whatever name you choose to call it, is not an option. Again, your employees, customers, and stakeholders are watching and, in many cases, waiting. You don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to be willing to engage. That is where I come in. We've seen this before. The most successful organizations are those whose leaders are willing to lean into complexity and seek wisdom from their peers. When companies face industry disruption, they don't rely on gut feelings. They consult advisors, peer groups, and experts to chart a way forward. Why should this conversation be any different? If you're ready to lead an inclusive workforce, it starts with building a C-suite culture that acts with authenticity, courage, and transparency. And I can walk alongside you and your leadership team to facilitate these critical conversations, not with a compliance mindset, but with a leadership strategy that positions you for long-term success. Not every CEO is ready for this conversation, and that's okay. But the ones who are, the ones who want to be ahead of the curve, are the ones who will shape the future of leadership. If that's you, let's talk. Let's ensure your leadership team is prepared for what's next. Schedule a confidential executive session with me. No obligation, just a candid, strategic conversation about where your team stands today and where you need to go next. My email is easy to remember, Anita@drnita.com, and remember to spell out the word doctor. You can message me on LinkedIn at Anita Polite Wilson, PhD, or visit my website at drnita.com to book a time. And remember to spell out the word doctor. Whatever works best for you to connect with me, let's start the conversation. Because the future of leadership isn't about avoiding challenging conversations. It's about having them. By becoming comfortable with the discomfort that you notice when your awareness is raised in pursuit of something greater for your organization. If this podcast was helpful to you, please share it with your network by reposting and adding your own comments. Our community is a learning community, and I value your voice. In the meantime, please stay in the flow with me by following, liking, and oversharing any podcast that helps you reframe hot topic conversations from difficult to different. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real.